All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Behind the Visual with Mark Hansen, where I am your host, advertising and lifestyle photographer Mark Hansen. And this is the podcast where I interview all those people responsible for creating those images and videos you see out in your world every day. And today, my guest is once again Michael Kaminski. He is the executive producer, director of production at Juice Pharma. And this one, today, we are talking about Cuba and his trips to Cuba. He's had about 5 of them, and he has definitely sold me on wanting to go to Cuba. Excuse me. He's gone with a couple of different trips every time he goes with a group of people, and it sounds like it's an amazing, amazing place to be. The images, we show a lot of those in here that he shot, and they're very cool. He gives a little story behind them. He talks about a woman who told him, no, no, no. And what he didn't understand was he thought that meant don't take her picture. And what she meant was don't fall in love with me. And he ended up taking some pictures of her. And then we hear a little story about how he backed up into a hole, fell down into it. People were standing over top of him going crazy. He got out, got back to his hotel and found a bruise on his back that was in the shape of something very interesting. So stay tuned to hear about that. And yeah, getting propositioned with his son out in the street. So that was one of them. Was waiting to figure out how long it was going to take for his son to figure out what was going on there because neither one of them speaks Spanish. But check this one out. I mean, this will definitely make you want to go to Cuba and take a trip there. So listen to Michael, check this one out, and let me know what you guys think. So I want to know about the whole Cuba thing. I want to know how you got, first of all, how'd you get into Cuba? Was it at the time where you could go to Cuba, or did you have to work around to get into Cuba, or what was the deal with that?
So it's interesting, right? I never really gave Cuba much thought, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, me either.
I think that in the back of my mind, it was always one of those places where if somebody tells me that I can't go there, I have to go there and find out why they don't want you to go there or why you can't go there. Like, I have to go in that abandoned building because you told me not to. But there was definitely a part of that I was interested in. At the time, I was at a point in my career where I had really stopped shooting unless I was going to be doing like portraits in the studio. Right. And my responsibilities had morphed into being an executive producer. So yes, it was fun to be in charge of producing the commercials and doing all the brand work for the agency and all that stuff. But I just wanted to shoot. I wanted to go out and shoot. And I've always been attracted to capturing the moment. I've always been attracted to capturing on the street. I love baseball. I love shooting in the streets of New York. So I said to myself, I've never done anything for myself. I've never spent money on myself for anything like this. I want to go there and be a better photographer. I want to learn. At the time, you could still only go for a people-to-people exchange. Right? It was I went in 2016 the first time, just when Obama was starting to open things up again. And the Cuban people were just joyous and glorious. But at the time, you still needed a group or a way to go there. So I ended up going with SVA, with School of Visual Arts. And they had a photography class to go to Cuba and shoot. They actually had a printmaking class too. I was like, which one? They're both interesting to me, but I wanted to go shoot on the street because that's just something that I've just always loved doing. So that was the way that we were able to go there. It was a cultural exchange.
Okay.
While we were in Cuba on that first trip, there were very accomplished photographers like Dave Giordano was there, and he spoke in a Cuban art gallery. And then we went to meet other Cuban artists that spoke in their home or spoke in Fabrica de Art. So it was a real cultural exchange. And it was pretty fascinating because I've never gone on a group photo thing. I don't like group anything.
Yeah,
I don't like to work out with groups of people. I just don't like it. So I thought to myself, is this going to be horrible? Am I just going to be like, jock, because I've seen the pictures. You see everybody standing at the Grand Canyon, and I really didn't want to do that. So I was already going into it with the attitude of, if the group is here, I'm going to go look over here.
Right.
So that's how I kind of talked myself into it. It's not just going to be a photo group thing. And boy, oh boy, Cuba did not disappoint. I mean, from the minute that we got there, it was just like, it was literally sensory overload to the point where I felt like it was the first time when I shot the stones, the first that happened too. I just stood there in shock, like, oh, I got to shoot. And when I got to Cuba, I was like, oh my God, it's everywhere. The great thing about that first trip with SVA was not only the varying degrees and experience of the students that went, who I learned something from everybody, from people that it was their first time shooting to folks that had been out there, but the professors that they geared us up with were just incredible. It was a gentleman named Jaime Permuth, another gentleman named Alex Garcia. And Jaime is without a doubt one of my mentors, heroes. The guy has the incredible ability to take images of nothing that speak volumes. Like, he can shoot a blank space that is just so engaged. And I never, ever thought of shooting like that. So immediately I'm starting to learn from him. And then the other gentleman that was there, this gentleman, Alex Garcia, is actually Cuban American. So he had family connections down there. Him and I have gone on to be really, really good friends. And he's my mentor, and he's really hard on me, and I love it. Like, he just rips my stuff apart, and we have a really good, I ended up going back with him and his group. He has a company called Cuba Workshops. I ended up going back 3 more times after that.
Wow.
So I just feel like I'm not going to talk about politics, and I'm not going to talk about any of that in this conversation because it's not appropriate. But I fell in love with the Cuban people. I fell in love with a group of people that, in my mind, and I've been to some pretty bad places, but they don't have much. There's not much material. They make the most out of what is available to them. And they are amongst the happiest people that I've ever met. Happy, welcoming. They love life. And it was just like, from the minute that I started meeting them, I'm like, I have to tell their story to the world. Like, the view that our country has of this country is not right. And they need to meet the people. They need to meet these people on the ground. There are so many stories, Mark. Like, I don't even know where to start. What year do you want to start in? Like, when I was there in 2016, Obama was president. When I went back in 2018, it was different president. It was very, very different dynamics in the country. So I got to experience 2 different personalities of the country.
Was it easier?
While I was there.
Was one way easier than the other?
It sure was.
Yeah.
It sure was. You know, the things that they find joy in, there's these very simple things in life. And for me, it was mostly connecting with those artists that just find the joy and the passion in creating their work, even when they have to use found materials and used materials. Like, no matter whether they were bakers or artists or our drivers, just like, they were just such an incredible group of people. You know, it was fascinating. You know,
how about the language? Do you speak Spanish, or did anybody speak English, or did you just like hand gesture to each other for everything you wanted?
Yeah. So it's actually become very funny. Like, the last time I was there, this is my 5th trip. The people that I've come to know in Cuba were literally like, if you don't freaking speak Spanish when you come back, we are not talking. Like, we've had it with you, you know? But yeah, I have a real flaw when it comes to learning languages. And I'm trying to learn Spanish again now for the next trip. But look, any good trip like that, any good production, right? Even if I were to do something like that here in the States, it's about the people that you surround yourself with, right? So Alex surrounds himself with really good translators and fixers and guides, you know, really good drivers, people that are responsible. But yes, there's a lot. I do a lot of this in Cuba. What did he say? Okay. And tell him, and then tell him this or tell her that. And it's amazing what can be accomplished through hand signals, especially walking around in the street, right? Too, because I don't know if you've done a lot of street photography, but there's that moment sometimes where you get caught taking the picture.
Oh yeah.
And it can go either way. It really can. And we've all been in those situations where it goes really well.
Yeah.
You end up having a shoot with the person. Like that happened a lot down there. And then, you get the, don't take my picture, which you have to be really respectful of that, right? That's one thing you learn. But those hand signals can be like, if I saw you in the window and I would go, and so that kind of stuff works. The funniest thing that ever happened was we were walking down the street and I saw a woman in a doorway and I wanted to take a picture of her. And I, did the same thing, pointed to my camera, and she went. So I said, oh, okay, I'm not going to take the picture. And then the guide comes back up to me, and this woman, Orietta Garcia, who none of these trips would be possible without her. She said, no, you misunderstand. She said, no, don't fall in love with me. So once I heard that, I was like, all right, we're going to take pictures now. I got down on one knee and proposed to her. Like, it's just those moments of fun. Like the first time I went in 2016, one of the most fascinating things for me was being from New York, people inviting you into their homes.
Oh, wow.
Hey, how you doing? Oh, you want to talk about, come on in, we'll have a cup of coffee. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, am I going to leave with one less kidney?
Right,
Like what's going to happen here? But I got to be honest with you, once you get used to that cultural moray and it's amazing the places that we got invited into and the day-to-day life that we got to see. It was really, really fascinating. I mean, it's funny, like I was trying to think of what to talk to you about before we did this session, and there's just so much. I mean, we could spend the whole time talking about Havana. We could spend the whole time talking about Trinidad, which is just insanely beautiful. And Alex has a great team on the ground there. This woman, Zadie, who, we were shooting dancers in waterfalls, like the opportunity. There's so many stories and so many good things that happened. Like, I don't even know where to start,
I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's talk about some of these shots.
Okay.
All right.
We'll focus me a little.
All right. Let's start with this.
Okay.
The pig head, the dude walking with the pig's heads. I mean,
we should have saved this. We should have saved this last. This is my personal.
We can come back to it if you want to.
No, it's okay. This is my personal favorite image that I've ever taken down there. And for a couple of reasons. One, because it was an adventure like no other. I had asked Alex and Jaime if they would take me to one of these markets early in the morning. I think it's important for people to know how they get food. I think that a lot of people don't know that these days. And Alex and Jaime took me over to this place. It must have been 5 o'clock in the morning. And I couldn't even decide what to shoot first. There was just so much going on. And we got to talk to them and hang out with them. And again, through all the translations and stuff for me. But for me, this is what I went to Cuba for. I went there to capture the moment. That's always what my photography's been about, right? Whether it's baseball or concerts. So to me, this was the epitome of what I was looking for to go down there. And then the other thing too is that, I sure as hell didn't want to go anywhere where there was a TGI Fridays or an Applebee's. And to me, this is everything that I wanted to experience while I was there.
That's an amazing shot.
I mean, it was still dark, 5 o'clock in the morning. I mean, the place is bustling like a beehive. They must have brought in probably 50, 60 pigs at this point. The whole thing was fascinating.
They just cut those heads off of the pig that morning? Like, did they bring in a whole pig and he sliced the head off and now he's walking with them, or
no
at all?
A lot of the stuff, like the pigs and stuff, some of them come like pre-butchered a little.
Okay.
So they came off, the heads came off of a cart that was, and then if you look in the upper left-hand side, all the bodies are laid out on that.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I mean, those magical moments, right? So this was in 2016 on my first trip. In 2020, in January of this year, the last trip that I went on, I took my son Luke to celebrate his 18th birthday. So we met another butcher in Havana, a different place than this, that he became, we saw the guy every day and became friendly with. And he was, Luke was on the knives. He was teaching Luke how to make cuts and things that just, I don't know, if you tried to do it here, somebody would go, do you have an insurance waiver so that the kid can use the knives,
Yeah.
And down there, it's just all like, there's none of that nonsense. So, and they're just so friendly and happy. And it was really cool. So we ended up learning a lot from him. But, this was my first trip. This is why I kept going back.
Yeah, I get it. You're selling me on it for sure. I'm just sitting here thinking, all right, when can we start traveling again? That sounds like a cool trip to go hang out and shoot.
Yeah.
God, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I just basically got up at 5 a.m. and walked for the light in the morning. And then we would have an itinerary and travel all day and have great things that Alex would set up. But you, and then here's the other thing too, like, I would shoot from 5 a.m. till like 2 or 3 a.m. Havana was probably one of the safest places I've ever walked around at night. Like I certainly have felt worse in certain places, parts of Brooklyn.
Really?
I never felt that in Cuba, no matter what time it was. It just didn't matter.
How many images did you come back with? It had to have been thousands.
Thousands, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't even gone through everything from this January. That's how pathetic it is right now. Yeah, I have a lot to go through.
Damn, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about this lady.
So this is the typical, a lot of people in Cuba spend times in their doorways and their windows. It's a communication hub. It's a practicality because it's hot as hell.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where the coolest parts in the house are.
Did you ask her if she did her own hair?
What's that?
Did you ask her if she did her own hair?
Yeah, she was great. But that's like, again, like here's a woman who may not have much to do during her day, but she got dressed up, she did her hair, she was enjoying life. She was more than happy to have us come over and photograph her. This was across the bay. We had taken the ferry across the bay in Havana. I'm going to mispronounce it. I think it's called Regulus. But this was like a little bit sleepier part just outside, just across the bay there.
How many people were in your group?
She was great. I think when there were two, the second trip was much bigger, but it's been an average of like 8.
Okay.
The Cuba workshop trips have been, I think, about 8. But the SVA trips were bigger. There were definitely more people.
So did
the second SVA trip? What's that?
Did you go off and shoot off by yourself, or were you shooting with the group, competing?
I did a little of both.
Yeah, that's always what I've wondered when you see these. Like, I would get these things, and probably still do occasionally, where they go, "Oh, there's a photo workshop, and so swimsuit model is going to be there. Come shoot her." And they show you the video, and it's like all these dudes shooting this one poor little model, and it's like 10 of them trying to shoot her or whatever. And all I'm thinking was, how the hell are you going to get anything worth a damn when you're fighting all these people? But it's also a completely set up kind of deal. And so I've always
like if you pull up, I had sent you the pictures. There's dancers in the waterfall, and also so that's in Trinidad, that was with. Yeah. So that was with our guide and fixer Zadie, who made that happen. So these are 2 local dancers in Trinidad, and I'm blanking on the names of the gods that they represent in this image. I should know that. But so here's a perfect situation, right? Everybody wants this shot.
Yeah.
So if you have somebody like me in the group who really doesn't give a shit what people think about him, what I had to start doing was saying, and by nobody's fault, and it's not a knock on anybody. It's just you get caught in the moment and you're shooting. But I would just yell out, rotate. And then we tried to rotate.
Oh, that's good.
But for instance, like the way that I found it to be successful is that I might be in the scrum to get this one shot, but immediately in my brain, I do not want my image to look like anybody else's.
Yeah, me either.
So this is probably an image that other people have. I happen to really like this image, the way it's composed. I mean, I'm creating my own work, but you have to make a choice. Are you going to get different angles? Is your story going to be different? There has to be something that you think about to separate yourself, or everything will look exactly the same, you know?
Right.
The other thing too is that I noticed that there's other ways to go about it. Like you can change your techniques. Like you can shoot shallow depth of field or drag the shutter. There's got to be something you can do in that scene to differentiate it like that. And the fascinating thing is that the person that proved that without meaning to or happened to do it was my son, Luke, right? So I took him on the 2020 trip. And there were times where I was just looking at him and I almost felt like he was like the kid in the little league, like playing with the bug in the grass.
Yeah.
Cause I'd be like, what do you do? Like, what are you shooting? Like and the reason I haven't gone through my stuff is because I edited all of his images first.
Oh, wow.
And I got to tell you, it was a joy because it was the trip from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have that predisposed, I got to get the shot, I got to compose it. He was just like, oh, that looks cool. So it was really interesting, you know, and he's much more of a video guy. So he was much more concentrated on the video, which was, again, a good mix to have at the end.
Yeah, that's very cool. Did he put together something from it? Like a short little thing or something?
Yeah. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
He put a little teaser together. Yeah.
Dude, I mean, you got some really cool stuff. Like I was just going through the few things you sent me. Well, look, wait, there's you and your son.
Yeah. Oh, that was incredible. So this woman was a dancer at the Tropicana. And she came out into
Is this same woman?
No, different.
Woman. Oh, yeah. All right. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. The flamenco dancer is in Havana, and the traditional dances are in Trinidad.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was great. So we had the opportunity, Alex and his team set it up to take this woman out. And it was just this lush green area, you know, and again, you know, you have to try to, it's set up. It's like shooting in the studio. Some of the shots are going to be like that, but you can get the magic if you think differently a little bit, you know.
Well, I like the fact that your son and you both are wearing cargo pants because my daughter's shorts, because my daughters will not let me wear them in public anymore. If I have them on, they're like, you're going to mow the grass, right? You're not going out any place. I'm like,
really? That's like standard issue uniform up here, you know?
Yeah, I know. I was like, I don't know what's wrong with it. Like, no, you can't wear that out in public. All right, fine. Okay, this thing, dude, this is a killer. I'm digging the colors, the way the colors come in with the bananas and this dude. I mean, I'm loving this shot.
Yeah, I just noticed there's like a black mark in the upper left-hand corner. I don't know what that's from. Anyway, this is cool. This is the same spot as the pig.
Really?
6 hours later on a different day.
Oh, wow.
It's the same market. So half of the market was for meat and half of it was for fresh produce and vegetables. So what this gentleman's doing, he's actually waiting to get his next package from one of the fruit sellers, and then he's going to go deliver them to somebody. That's what he was waiting for that.
Okay.
But yeah, that market, and you just keep reminding me of things. We might have to do two of these. One of the things that I discovered about Cuba, which is true of any city, even New York to a certain degree, but even more so there, at different times of the day, the streets had different personalities. So like you could walk through someplace in the morning that would be teeming with all this market stuff and come back in the afternoon and nothing.
Really?
But yeah, it was just fascinating. Like there was just this ebb and flow of concentrations of people on, and you know, you're in a place that you don't really know. You try to walk in a grid. So I'd end up walking down the same streets a lot. And I'd be like, wait, I saw this, but it was different. So that was pretty fascinating as well.
Oh, that's cool.
So the same location could give up more than one story, I guess would be the best way to say it. You know,
that's always nice. All right. This is a killer shot too.
Yeah. So this was, again, these are those same Trinidadian dancers.
Right.
This was actually the second year that we worked with them. We had worked with them the year before as well. This is early morning. Again, trying to be different. The only thing, my whole morning that you'll see here is all shadows. Like I probably could have shot good portraits of them and stuff, but I didn't. So this is what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean that shadow I think really makes the shot, because it would have been a cool shot just because of the colors and how he works it, but then that shadow in there brings it to, I think, to a whole different level.
Yeah, it's interesting. The morning light in Havana is really like, I have an image of a guy riding a bicycle, but it's like this really soft yellow light. Where in Trinidad, it's just like, it's more tropical. It's just like the sun comes up and it's like, bam. So, you know, I had the advantage of being in Trinidad before. I knew the square. I looked up where the sun was going to come up the night before. So I was just really positioning myself to shoot for the shadows when we did this. But these two, Yordell is the gentleman's name. I forget the woman's name. He didn't jump once. He would have jumped 57 times if I asked him to, like just nonstop. The picture that you saw of him in the waterfall, that was great. He was in the waterfall, in the freezing cold water for 45 minutes so we could shoot him getting hit by the water and stuff like that. They were incredibly willing to collaborate and participate in creating this art with us. It was pretty amazing.
Do they see any of it later? I mean, do you send it to anybody who lets them see it, or they just hope it comes out great and never see it?
So it's funny that you say that, right? Because that's one of my big pet peeves. When I travel, I really try to get the images to people. I just feel like it's the right thing to do. So a couple of things that work against. You can't mail anything to Cuba.
Yeah.
Right? So I can't mail prints. You can't really email them stuff because they pay per megabyte and per minute.
Wow.
And so sending them a 10 meg JPEG that you think is beautiful is actually costing them a lot of money.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the best place to share the images with them is on Instagram.
Okay.
Because either you post it or you DM it to them.
Right.
You know?
Smart.
Even WhatsApp becomes problematic at times because it's a data. There's a data charge, I guess. Okay. You know? But it's funny that you say that, because when I was going through these images this morning, I'm not going to lie to you, I was cramming for your interview. I have a whole series of pictures so I went in May of 2019, and then I went right back in November because we knew it was going to get shut down. And on that trip, I brought prints back to people, and it was,
oh, that was nice.
I mean, you know, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but holy cow, did that feel? I mean, he cried.
Really?
When he got his prints. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like, it just doesn't happen, you know? So no, it's one of the things I have to figure out on my next trip, how to bring back as many prints as possible. Like when the ballerinas got their prints, I mean, oh my God, it was insane.
Yeah. These are some cool shots. I mean, like that.
I mean, it was just such a joy to work with them. They're so athletic, and they're so into it, you know? Those two are an actual couple in the lower right-hand, lower right-hand corner. They are probably the cutest in-love couple that I've met anywhere in the world. It's almost ridiculous. But again, you know, what you're not seeing here is that this is on the, this is on the Malecon. They're standing on the seawall. It's cold. there's water splashing up, but I'll be damned if they moved. You know, they held their spots, and we had so much fun with them. We shot them in the streets. Yeah, it was just, on one of the trips that I was on, Katrine Eisman was there, who's another one of my heroes and mentors. And she taught at SVA. Now she works at Adobe. And she was like grabbing people in the street, and we were setting up portraits with the ballerina. It was just incredible. It was a really incredible experience. Yeah, I mean, that is one of the things about going on Alex's trips, is that there have been some really, really talented storytellers that I've been able to learn from. And there's so many folks, I can't even name them all, but it's really been a great experience.
Yeah. It sounds like an amazing trip to go do. I'm in right now. I'm just like, all right, I want to go on the next one. This is cool. I mean, the shadows. I mean, you're killing it on the lighting on these things, man. I mean,
Cuba and Mother Nature does that, man. I just show up, you know.
Hey, you're not getting that shot. You know?
So this was actually from this year. This was from January. This is the home ballpark of the Industriales, right? That's the team that's playing there. The first time I went in 2016, Alex got us into the dugout, and we were on the field during practice, and we were in the dugout. It was crazy. When I went back this year, this was fascinating. So I walk into the stadium, $1. Tickets are $1 to go see a game. $1.
Wow.
And, you know, I came in, you know, no matter what I do on these photo trips, I look like a photo tourist. I have cargo shorts and a giant camera. I mean, like, you know, what else do you want? But when I came into the game on this day, the ushers came and got me, and they literally walked me down to the front row. They asked this family if it'd be okay to scoot over, and I sat in what would be the photographer's pit at Yankee Stadium for the whole game.
Damn, it's the hair.
Maybe, I don't know. I talked to the people next to me, and again, it's all sign language, like, you know, trying to talk baseball in sign language. But it was really fascinating. And I think I gave you another baseball one, a black and white.
Yeah, thanks. Let me find it. Wait, what's that one? That's a cool shot. Yeah,
there it is.
Right here. Yeah. Damn, man.
So this is what I was talking about. Like, it's not like the States. Everybody's not so uptight, you know. All I did was respectfully say, hey, can I shoot from behind, you know, in sign language? Can I shoot from back there? It's okay. I'm sitting at the net. There's a hole in the net already from previous photographer, and I'm just banging away. The access that we were afforded was just incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing the kind of access you guys are getting on these things.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. This is cool. I like this shot too. I always dig like old buildings like this that are kind of in ruin. I just always find,
you know, it's fascinating, right? Because photographically, you know, texture wise, I mean, it really is just incredible.
Yeah. I mean,
but
that dude makes a shot though. I mean, it's a cool shot. Like, even without him, it's cool, but just having that guy in there, I think takes it to a different level too.
Yeah, it gives a good sense of scale for how impressive the architecture is there. But, you know, it's funny. We were walking through the streets one day, and the translator, fixer guide, Orietta, starts giggling, and I'm like, all right, what did they say over there? And it was, you know, a couple of people walking through the streets, and they basically said, they're like, oh, the more fucked up everything is, the more they like it.
Yeah.
So there's a part of you that's like, oh, right, like people live here. So it's like that weird thing about shooting on the street. But I will not deny that. I mean, I could have probably shot on all four corners of that intersection and seen something like that. It's the texture and the attention to detail that craftsmen used to have in their stonework and their woodwork. I mean, the buildings are just so beautiful. The attention to detail, the tile work, it's pretty incredible, I have to say.
What's the worst reaction you got from trying to shoot somebody in the street?
When it's just like anywhere else where they want money.
I had a dude in Miami. I was down South Beach. I was living in South Beach for a few months when I first started shooting. And there was this homeless dude who was really cool looking. And he was slightly insane. And so I constantly had my camera with me. So I'm like shooting the Hare Krishnas as they're walking by. I'm shooting whatever, this old couple sitting in their chairs. And I see this dude and he's like coming down the sidewalk by me. So I pull the camera up and he's like, no. I'm like, all right, I'll back off. So I saw him about a week or so later. I was up by the buildings, the shops and all that stuff. And he's out on the boardwalk kind of deal, walking past the wall. And I see him. So I'm like, I have a zoom lens on. I'm like, I'm going to shoot this dude from here. I'm going to get him. So I pull the camera up. I swear to God, he's got some kind of radar. He turns, he sees me. And the next thing I know, he reaches down, starts to unzip his pants and pull his dick out. And I'm like, all right, you got me. I'm done. Never tried again after that. I was like, okay.
That's enough of that.
Yeah. I will not take your picture. I will leave you alone from this point forward. I promise.
Yeah. It's hard, it's hard. I don't mind giving people money, but I can't give every kid money that I want to shoot. So, the more that tourism has increased, the more of that I've seen. Mm-hmm. My worst experiences have been in New York. People, like, I shot this guy, totally not even shooting him, just a street scene, a sidewalk scene. Again, trying to shoot silhouettes and shadows.
Right.
I don't think he was supposed to be in town. Like, I don't think his wife knew he was. This guy came over. Like, I thought we were going to fight, but I didn't really get into that down there. There's inevitably shooting on the street. You get caught. It's embarrassing. And they go, no. And it's weird. Like, and I'm sure we could talk about this for 4 hours. We get 2 more photographers on here. We could talk about it for 8 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Do you take the shot and then talk to them? Do you talk to them and then take the shot? Like, they both have their advantages and their disadvantages.
Yeah.
I tend to shoot first and talk second. So do now, apologize later.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way I am. Even if I see a place I want to shoot, I will go and start shooting there. And then if I get busted, then I will apologize for it. And I'll, tell them I'll send them pictures or something, whatever it is. And usually I get by with it. Hell, I did it one time at Bank of America headquarters in Charlotte before 2000, before 9/11 hit. They had these really cool elevator banks. So I went in there and shoot it, and I had a model with me at the time. So I thought it would be cool to kind of have her in there walking towards me, framed by the elevator banks. So I start shooting. Security comes up and is like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "I'm shooting for," there was a magazine called Charlotte's Best at the time. I was like, "I'm shooting for Charlotte's Best magazine." He's like, "All right, well, just hold on a minute. Let me call upstairs and find out." I'm like, "Oh, shit, no." So he goes over there, and I'm looking at the model, I'm like, we're busted. And he comes back and he goes, "All right, they said nobody called them about it, or at least they didn't know about it, but they like the magazine, so you can go ahead and continue shooting."
I love it. I love it.
That works out.
I love it.
Is this early morning?
This is actually late afternoon. So again, who would think that a car wash would be so photogenic? But I mean, the light, the palm trees, the mist. This was the first time that we met this gentleman. And the second time we went back, he put a 57 Chevy on the left. So,
wow.
I'll have to follow up with those images too. Yeah, I just didn't have time. Yeah.
Are there a lot of those around there? I've heard like a lot of classic cars end up over in Cuba.
They are everywhere. And when you first get there, you just can't help it. Or me anyway. It's like,
oh yeah.
And then after a while, you're like, all right, not another car. But look, those are the cars of our childhood. That's what I wanted, one of those so badly, when I was buying my first car in the 70s, cars were terrible, you know? So,
Hey,
but
my
yeah,
first
they
car was a
are.
Mustang too.
That was your first car?
Yeah, that was an embarrassing car. But it was
My
like,
first car was a Mustang too, but it was a much better one.
yeah.
It was a 64 and a half. Yeah.
So
I
yours was a
I bought my own.
Mustang. So I got
Yeah.
yours was a Mustang also. Mine was a Mustang too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, yours is a much better Mustang than mine. Mine was, yeah, and it was brown. Luckily, somebody hit me and I had it fixed and painted it red, which didn't help much, but at least it helped some. That car is so embarrassing. I don't think Mustang even claims that Ford doesn't even claim they made it anymore.
No, I don't think they do either.
Yeah, you see a list of Mustangs and it's just gone. So, they've left it out for whatever reason. So who are these people? They're not all holding Trump flags, are they?
No, they are not. They don't hold Trump flags down there.
It's a cool shot,
this was quite possibly one of the most adrenaline overload moments I have ever had in my life. So
really?
Imagine being on this is the May Day parade, right? One of the biggest holidays in that sphere, and this is a full blown military citizens. But imagine being on Fifth Avenue and there's this wild ass parade, and you're just allowed to go stand in the middle of the street, and you're allowed to go stand with the soldiers, and you're allowed to just do whatever the hell you want as long as you don't hurt anybody or knock anybody over.
Wow.
So this is me walking backwards for, it felt like 10 miles. I'm sure it was only like a mile or something like that. But just shooting, the access that we've gotten, that Alex has got us over there has just been, it's been insane. But, it's all due to good planning too. Like, this is like 7:00 in the morning. Like, this started really early because it gets so hot. So as long as you're willing to get up and get going, man, there's so much to shoot there.
Sounds like Alex got some connections, man.
Well, his family is originally from Cuba. His parents, his dad immigrated. He still has family there that I've met. His cousin Orietta is our primary guide, and yeah, no, he's got connections, no doubt about that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this dude, is he spray?
These are amongst my favorite people. So these are the street artists of Cuba. This gentleman is Mr. Mill. I do everything I can to support these guys. I bring them canvas and paint and pens, and I just think it's incredible that they can express themselves with just so little materials available to them. So the one on the left is a skate park that we've had some incredible adventures in, and he painted this for us on the spot.
Really?
So yeah, this was him when he was complete. I have 8 of his paintings hanging in my house. I mean, wow. I really, really like this guy's work. And then the image on the other side is one of his pieces on the street on some corrugated steel. This is on the Prada, like the main strip in Cuba. So yeah, his work is very prolific. He's a great guy, just looking to take care of his little daughter. And I've really become good friends with, there's just some wonderful people there. And he is one of them. He's just.
So do you guys tip him? Like, after he did this, did he get tipped, or was he getting paid for it to do it for you guys, or how did that work?
In this particular case, he wasn't.
All right.
We came to the skate park. I had become friends with him on previous trips. So I was buying his work already. So I guess that didn't hurt, but no, they just wanted to come out and create, it was really cool. He's part of a group called the Goon Vibes. And then if you see there's an image of a skateboarder, if you could bring up the guy on the wall. Yeah. So this is at that same skate
Yeah.
park. This is Johanny Perez getting some serious
Dude, that's
wall.
crazy.
This guy has actually become the Cuban skateboard ambassador basically for the world. You know, there's a lot of organizations that go down there that support skating that he's very active in, bringing it to the younger kids. You know, so he's another one that I've met that just never want to not be in touch with the guy. He's an analog photographer. They shoot, process, and print their own film down there.
Oh, wow.
You know, so I've been able to connect with him. I've been able to bring him some film and things like he shoots 2 1/4. But just this amazing group of people that I've met in my trips down there, you know.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. That dude's on the wall.
He's the spokesman for Skateboards for Hope, which is like this global. I mean, it's incredible what they accomplish with so little there, you know.
Yeah, damn, that's a killer shot too. Is he actually on the wall? Or
yeah, he's skating across the wall.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
Hell, that's impressive. Yeah. They got grandpa here.
I mean, this is every corner. I mean, this happens to be in Trinidad, which is still a little more rural than Havana. There's a lot of horses, a lot of cowboys, stuff like that. But again, it's just like, dude, you have a great look. And then, you know, they say yes. You know, I always feel bad. Like this was one of those situations where there wasn't someone to translate for me. I was just out on my own in the streets, and I'm always like, ooh, I wish I could say more. You know?
Yeah, I get that. That's the one that's behind you.
Yeah. So this is the Malecon. This is what the seawall on the north side of the city of Havana. They call it Havana's living room because on Saturday nights, for I think it's 2 miles, maybe a little longer, but just packed with people celebrating, playing music, eating, drinking. But this is one of my favorite spectator sports, is to stand across the street and see who's going to get soaked by the giant waves. So that's basically what's going on here. And then, you know, one of the things I noticed when I was shooting this, I was like, wow, I can't tell the difference between the waves and the sky. And it was really bothering me. But then when I got home, I was like, oh, I kind of like that now.
Yeah, it looks cool. So, it's almost like the sky. Yeah. It's just, I don't know whether the sky is going into the ocean or the ocean's going up into the sky, you know, blending into the sky, but it's really cool.
Yeah, this has been, I had done a fundraiser for NYC Salt selling these prints. And this was actually one of the only ones that sold. So
really,
people have definitely found a connection with it.
Yeah, I can't believe more didn't sell. I always love going places with the colors like this on these buildings.
Yeah, so this is Trinidad. This is literally you pull into town and you're unloading and you're going to go to your casa, and this is the first thing that greets you. And the whole town is just different variations of this. It's really, really beautiful. I mean, the light, they just get the most incredible light, you know?
Yeah, you're definitely making me want to go there for sure. I mean, dude, there's just all these shots. I'm just sitting here skimming through them again. I think the only one we haven't hit is that one. The shadow.
Again, that's everybody else is shooting them against the wall. Right. And I'm like, I can't have that same shot. You know, it's a shame. I wish that I was more prepared, and I wish that I wasn't. I mean, I certainly apologize for changing this so many times, but there's hundreds of, as we're looking at these, I'm just like, oh, I should have sent this. I should have sent that, you know?
I mean, there's so many shots. I mean, just all of these are really cool. And if you were shooting thousands, I can't believe how hard it had to have been to narrow it down to any. Because I mean, that's the way I am. I always think everything I shoot is great. You know?
Oh, there's another. Go to the Mr. Mill. Yes. Below the parade, the one below the parade. So this is that same gentleman. This is Mill, and this is that skate park.
Okay.
And this is like looking out the back of it. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you can just turn in all 4 directions, pretty much anywhere you are there, and there's images. And then the image that's next to him that you can partially see. I should have put one of his images in here. That's an artist who's known as 2+2, and his work is prolific all over Cuba as well. Good stuff. And in this particular case, they actually did a collaboration and painted here together.
So do these guys, are they doing this kind of as like promotion pieces to come buy our work, or is it they're getting paid by somebody to do it, or is it they just want to create?
They just want to create.
Yeah.
The way that they feed their families is by selling prints.
Okay.
Right. Like the last thing that I bought from Mr. Mill, which was amazing, he took old vinyl records, Cuban vinyl records, and he painted like those characters like you see on the vinyl.
Oh, that's
so cool. I just had those framed. They're beautiful. Fabian, the guy that the guy that paints the other character, the last time that I was down there, I commissioned him to paint his character as King Kong on the Empire State Building.
Really?
And that's hanging up in my son because I wanted to have that New York Cuba connection.
Yeah.
You know, so that was an amazing piece. Yeah, my whole family everyone in my family has a custom mill in their house. Like my daughter has a portrait of her dog. My girlfriend Elaine got flowers, which is a very different style for him. And then the boys and I each got to choose a monster. So they're all over my house. You know?
That's cool, man. That's very cool. So what are you shooting with?
So the first time that I went down, because I wanted to prove that I could still shoot, I shot completely manually. I don't even remember what camera I had the first time I went. It was probably I'm trying to remember if I went with the Nikon or the Canon, but I shot manually.
Okay.
It was
film or digital?
It was all digital.
Okay.
I didn't shoot. I've never shot film down there. The subsequent trips, I invested in the Sony, and it was worth every single penny.
Which Sony? That A7?
Yeah, I have the R.
Oh yeah.
Look,
dude, I've been thinking about that. I keep seeing that camera popping up all these places. I'm like, my next camera, should it be that, or should it be that mirrorless Nikon? But I was on that shoot, that movie in Budapest, and the guy who was this on-set photographer, the lead photographer, he was shooting with that Sony, and that thing was, great shots and not a sound out of it. Can you set that thing to make a sound if you want it?
You can set it to be silent.
Okay.
The only thing with setting it to be silent, and I could show you pictures of this from Cuba too, if the camera's on silent and you're shooting motor drive at really high speeds,
yeah,
if somebody swings a bat, the bat warps.
Really?
It has something to do with the whatever algorithm makes it silent. It doesn't just turn the sound off. I don't really understand how it works.
Yeah.
But you just have to be careful on silent. Because I thought, I'll shoot on silent all the time. This will be great. I'm shooting on the street, but you get some weird aberrations if you're shooting high-speed stuff. But look, I started off with the cheap Sony. I bought the what was it, like the A7 III, which was like they were touting as like the wedding photographer's camera.
Oh yeah.
And that worked out really well. And once I saw that it's just a quality thing, the camera sees in the dark. You can shoot at these insane ISOs. I could show you stuff. We got into a lot of on the third trip I went with a lot of accomplished photographers, and we got into like bakeries at night and stuff like that. Tony Gale, Travis Keys, and they were shooting with their Sonys, and it was the Canon. I still had the Canon, and we were looking at the back of the cameras together, and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me! Like, my camera doesn't even have the dynamic range to capture this."
Really?
And then I shot with the 7 III, and then I had to get the resolution that the R provided. It shoots 14 frames a second.
Damn.
The other one is faster. The S is faster, but I wanted the resolution.
Yeah.
I really wanted the resolution. But now they have that new one. They have that 8K alpha,
Dude, 8K is crazy.
Well, what people aren't thinking about is that that's all great that you shot 8K. Can you move 8K on your machine?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's a lot. I mean, 4K is a pain in the ass. And then you got to have a lot to move 4K, but to move 8K, my
I
God.
mean, you're going to be working in a proxy workflow anyway, but still, even the initial ingestion of the files.
Yeah.
What about your creative directors making choices, right?
Jesus.
I mean, it's a lot.
I guess the
But I
good thing
do,
is if you're shooting 8K, you can pull stills for posters or whatever
if they're
easily.
planned, if
Yes.
if if they're planned to do that.
Yeah.
I'm usually not a brand guy. Like it usually, I don't. It's never the brand. It's always just what piece of equipment do I have behind in front of me.
Yeah.
But I drank this. I have to say, I drank the Sony Kool-Aid. There's nothing that I don't like about it. I did have to get the extra battery pack that holds the two batteries because I just can't run out of power. And
Right.
I will say this: the camera is small.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you have big meaty fingers like me, it took some getting used to.
Well, that's my
In
other
that
thing because I
respect.
have the Nikon, the D810, and I bought the battery pack for it, which I don't ever really use. But because I shoot like this, so I'm still shooting with that top trigger as opposed to shooting like this. So I'll use that bottom, that's on the battery. But I bought it because I wanted that extra body to it, that bigger feel because I'd had a D3 before I bought it or D4, whatever it was. But it was a bigger camera because it was that sports camera that's shooting whatever. And so that's why I bought it, just because it was going to be small. So I saw the Sony and said, that's just so tiny. But I mean, you're making me want
Uh,
it.
it sees in the dark. Just rent one and go shoot at night, and
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
I think that's probably what we end up doing. I'm going to rent one of those and rent that new Nikon and then decide between the two of the mirrorless. And
which is the Nikon, the Z6, right?
no, they've got that mirrorless now. It's like the Z9. So they've got a Nikon Z9 mirrorless. So it's this because I guess Sony was starting to take some,
market share. Yeah,
market share from them, and Canon came out with one too. I don't know what Canon's is.
I haven't shot theirs. It's like the EOS 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I've always shot Nikons, and it's mainly because I shot Pentax when I first started shooting with the little ones, and now I was shooting medium formats. But then 35s pretty much since high school have been Nikons. And I just have all the lenses, and I've always bought the lenses. So that's the only reason. Occasionally I'll shoot Canon, but I'm usually shooting Nikon.
I mean, that's what kept me in Canon for so long, is that I couldn't afford to replace the lenses. I will tell you what not to do. Do not buy the converter and use it on the Sony. The images are fucking horrible.
Really? Yeah, because I was wondering about that.
I wasted a lot of stuff that I could have shot if I had just rented the Sony lenses, and I didn't. Well, I couldn't. I didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So I had to, I bought the Metabones thing for $300 instead of spending, $6,000 or whatever it would have been. Well, yeah, and I've just bought the lenses slowly over time. But now that I have the lenses, I won't be able. I got a pretty good range right now. I'm not going to be able to change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look at them both. That's even if I go with Nikon though, because the Nikon with the Z cameras, they have different lens mounts. So I'm like, all right, is it going to change? Is that going to screw my quality up? Is it going to make it look like shit, or am I going to be okay?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting too. Like before I started going to Cuba, like I had really kind of given up on having my own camera because everything that I was doing was at work.
Yeah.
So that really. That the trip also kicked me in the ass. Like I was like, okay, this was a great idea shooting manually, but you're an idiot. You need a better camera that gets better resolution. That was the other thing too. Like, I'm coming back from Cuba the first time, or actually the second time, and these Sony shooters are presenting their images, and I'm like, I could see the hairs in the face, and I'm like, I can't even get that close in my images because I don't have the resolution.
Right.
It made a difference. But like anything else, it takes me 2 hours to copy the files over sometimes.
Yeah.
They're gigantic, you know?
Yeah, that's the other thing that's a little annoying. I remember my first computer ever, I had it was like an 8 gig hard drive or something. And the guy who built it for me was like, you'll never need more than this. Or maybe it was 80 gig, whatever it was. It was less than a terabyte for sure, way less. And he was like, you'll never need more than this unless you're shooting video. Like, yeah, now I'm killing that, you know. Every time I go to shoot something, I'm like, all right, we're getting to the terabytes.
So, it's hard too. With me, I come into a lot of problems, like, and it's scary, but I can't afford to buy drives to back certain things up.
Yeah, dude,
it gets expensive after a while, you know.
Yeah, although the drives are coming down. You can get those. I got two. What is it? Four terabyte externals. Maybe more than that. I can't remember, but at least two. They're at least 4 terabytes, and then they were under $100 a piece.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so I think they're all coming down. I think they were, because I know I can get like a 1 terabyte for hardly anything now.
Yeah. I need like my next one has to be like a 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
You know.
The thing about building a new computer, I was telling the guy, I was like, I'm going to need like an 8 terabyte hard drive so I can, and then I'll just buy an external to automatically back it up. Because right now I have 2 externals, and it's a pain in the ass because they won't back each other up. They'll back up what's on my computer, but they won't back each other up.
Oh, do you have you ever used ChronoSync?
Yeah, I have that on my my laptop.
I love that. That's how you can do drive to drive for that.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh my God, that saves my life, because what it does is it takes my primary, mine are all named after baseball players, right? So Ruth backs up to Jeter, and they're exactly the same, because once you do it the first time, it only adds the new files after that.
Yeah, that's what
I love that. I love that program.
Because I bought 2 externals, and they were supposed to, like, they were automatically synced to back up or whatever. And I put them on the computer and looked at them, and it's like they'll only back up the hard drive on the computer. They won't back up each other. And I was like, son of a bitch. I needed them, but it was still, I was like, this is not what I was looking for.
You can do that in ChronoSync in 2 seconds.
All right.
It's like one of the choices, one of the predetermined choices to do that.
Because I don't have it on my desktop. I just have it on my laptop. I have that and have some other thing that I put on there that automatically backs everything up, because I had an issue with that years ago where my digital tech didn't back up like I told them to, and ended up losing some stuff, which
that's the worst. There's nothing.
I learned from that though. I backed everything
up.
Yeah. And before we delete anything on that laptop, I'm like, check what we're shooting now. Where is it going to? Do I have that backed up? You know, because I told them to delete it, the folder that we were like, there were 2 folders we needed space. I was like, you can delete those. And because I knew I had those folders backed up 2 or 3 other times in different places. And so, okay, well, what I didn't realize was that he didn't make a folder that day for that specific shoot. They were running into one where he made it, but it was in one of those other folders. And I don't know how that happened, but it did. And it just all disappeared.
I mean, my teammates are always making fun of me for backing stuff up. And I'm like, keep laughing.
Nah, dude.
Keep laughing until the first time that you lose something, and you'll do the same thing.
Yeah. I had it set for my desktop to back up automatically every day. And when we moved, something happened, I guess. I don't know. But like a month after we moved to the new house, the whole computer just shut down and quit working. And so the hard drive was just shut off. They couldn't pull anything off of it. I was like, well, thank God I got everything backed up. Where I went and looked, somehow I knew that hard drive was running because I looked at it every day, but it was not backing up. And it hadn't backed up in like 6 months. Luckily, the shoots that I needed, I had backed up on another external. And then the stuff I'd done to my daughters, they had all wanted their friends to see it. So I'd uploaded them all to Dropbox or something. Like, thank God I had them, but there's still stuff I lost.
Yeah.
So after then, everything's getting backed up multiple times.
I've always screwed myself. Like, I won't use that application anymore. Duplicate file finder.
Oh yeah.
Don't use that.
That leads
to bad things. But I am pretty it's a catch-22, right? You're paranoid and you back shit up, and then you're like, oh fuck, which one is the right version? Like,
Yeah.
I hate that, you know. So
yeah. When are you going back to Cuba?
I lost the pool. I thought that we were going to go back on June 15th.
Oh,
so
yeah.
But it's funny. That's one of the things too. Like, it's not just me. Like, there's other folks on the trip that have gone multiple times. You know, there's this woman, Barb, from Chicago, that I absolutely adore and love, and she's just going to go on every trip that she can. Like, that's a lot of people have returned. You know,
Yeah,
there's just so much to see. You know,
where those trips run
and
with Alex.
I think they're like, I don't know what the total is now. I want to say they're like $3,000 or something like that.
Oh, damn, that's not bad. That's way
somewhere in that. Don't quote me on that. I never pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah. Well,
once I decided that I was going, it was just like, okay, just keep sending money, you know. Yeah. But it's good. I mean,
how
all
long
the housing, it was 10 days.
Oh, damn. All right.
Yeah. All the housing is included. You stay in private casas, which are just incredible. The most incredible breakfast I've ever had anywhere. Havana and Trinidad. It was like a contest. My son, of all the things about the trip, that's one thing that he still talks about all the time. The food, the breakfast, the fresh fruit, it's just I mean, everything's fresh there. There's no preservatives. There's no processed food. I mean, there is, but there's not a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know.
You smoke back any cigars?
Yeah, definitely. You can bring cigars back, bring rum back.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm all out. You know what the hardest thing that hurts the most is when you run out of coffee. They make the most incredible coffee down there. So I ran out. If it wasn't for the pandemic, I probably wouldn't have run out, but it's all gone now.
Yeah. Hell, I don't even drink coffee. But
it's so good.
I like the way it smells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cigars, rum, just you can bring certain amount of things back now.
Right.
I think what's going to be interesting when I go back is that I still had they had two monetary systems down there. They had the Cuban pesos for the Cubans, and then they had the CUCs for everybody else. And they did away with that. So I have a bunch of paper here that's not worth anything now. But it's, you know, it's not an expensive trip. Like, you know,
it doesn't sound like it.
You could have lunch for $6 and have like a sandwich and a drink, and you know, there's not a lot of expenses once you get there. I mean, the thing that I spend the most money on is buying artwork. You know, that's where the bulk of my money goes. And, you know, there's times where you're not with the group and you have to get your own meal and stuff. So, but like, even so, you know, like a plate that would be $25 in New York is like 10 there, you know? So they're starting to get closer. They're starting to, as tourism increases, you know.
Yeah, everybody's figured out they can charge more and make a little more money, which I don't blame them. You know, do it. But
it's not a
baseball game for $1. I figure it can't be that expensive.
That's what I'm saying. There's really there's not many. You know, what are you doing? You're gathering money up to give to the people that you're working with as an extra tip and all that stuff. But there's not a lot of expenses, which is good. And the other thing too is that you're so busy. Like, there's just always something going on, you know. So you're always shooting, or you're always, you know, on your way to the next place to shoot. And you know, it's also the Caribbean, so there's a little bit of that island time that creeps into things, you know. So you have to be really patient.
Oh,
it's
sure.
An island. It's a communist country, and things are slow and methodical. So you have to be prepared for that. I've seen some people on the trip that I know won't go back because they're like, this is too slow. This is taking. I'm like, dude, what did you expect? You know?
What else you got to, it's not like you got to run to a meeting
Right. That was the other thing. I'm like, where are you going?
Yeah, it's like, so
we all came in the same. We all came in the same car.
Yeah, I don't get it. Why they wouldn't just chill.
One of the other things that I did when we were there, we didn't even get to talk about this, but Trinidad is going east on the island, right? But if you go west and you go to Vinales, which is tobacco country, which we did that as well, and that was incredible. I mean, the first year we went, you go to a plantation, a family-owned plantation. They bring you into the smokehouse. I learned more about cigars in that 45 minutes than I will ever learn anywhere. And then you go back to the farm proper, I guess, the house. And, they open it up. It's like an outdoor bar, and you smoke their cigars with them. You drink rum with them. It's like, it's all very personal, which was pretty incredible. And that side of the island has a beauty all its own. Like, it's just like Trinidad was all verdant and lush, but in Vinales, it's all mountains and green. Wow. And it's just, there's caves and stuff there that I haven't been to yet. That's something that I want to do. I want to go to the south shore of the island, where one of the most untouched natural marine areas is, where people go snorkeling and diving. There's just so many other things I want to do. I want to go surfing in, it's on the other end of the island. The name is escaping me right now. It's just, I want to go back for so many things,
Sounds like you have multiple trips in the future.
And here's something that we did on my son's trip. Like, I just keep thinking of things as we talk. So I showed you I should have pulled these pictures out too. I showed you the pictures of the parade, right?
Yeah.
So that was the parade. When we went back in January, we participated in this parade called the March of the Torches, right? And it's all about the founder of Cuba and all that stuff, and they celebrate. Imagine being on the steps of Columbia University with a couple of thousand of your closest friends, a lot of thousands of your closest friends, and everybody has fire.
Oh.
Everybody has a torch. They have tin cans with light up. They have some sort of incendiary device that they're going to walk through town with. And nothing happened. Nothing burned down. Nobody started any trouble. Nobody lit somebody else on fire. I mean, come on. Central Park West, 8 o'clock at night, a couple of thousand people with torches.
Somebody's getting lit on fire.
Like, what would happen first, So there's just these incredible moments of, like, I mean, just imagine you're amongst a couple of thousand people and you do a 360 and everybody has something lit on fire. It was just
very cool. Just
the most incredible. There's so many of them. I can't even think of them all. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, you definitely made me want to go for sure. All right. Last question. I'm going to let you go after this, but what's the strangest thing that's happened to you on one of these trips?
I don't know. There's been a lot of funky stuff. Strangest thing. I mean, there's so many good things. All right. One of the strangest things that happens is, again, I'm out on my own, and I'm out shooting in the street. And of course, I'm worried about the shot. So I back up and I fall into a hole in the street because there was no grading, I guess, on the hole. So I don't know if I blacked out, but I kind of was like a little shaken up, and I wake up or look up, and there's all these people, all these older people talking Spanish to me. And I was like, what is going on? Where am I? So I get out, everything's fine, and it hurt. And I get back to my room later on, and I'm looking in the mirror, And I swear to you, the bruise was an upside down Cuba that was impressed into my kidneys. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I got to go home with this.
Cuba?
It looked like an upside down picture of the island.
Wow.
I don't think anything strange has happened there, but there was so many times where the feeling was like, you know, that feeling like when you're walking up the tunnel at a baseball stadium and you come out and the stadium's there and the green grass is there. I felt like that happened in Cuba every day, maybe 2 times a day. You know, just be like, okay, we're going to go here and do this. And we get there and you just be like, wow, like the skate park. The skate park was just 360 degrees of just shit going on. I mean, what do you do first? What do you shoot first? A lot of stuff in Cuba is too, like, it doesn't look like much from the outside.
Yeah.
And then you open the door and you enter this like wonderland of stuff. Like, there was a lot of stuff like that. I mean, funny, strange things that happened were getting propositioned on the, you know, while my son was there, and me knowing exactly what was going on and trying to see when he was going to realize what was going on. So that was a real strange father-son moment that I wanted to see how he would. But that could have happened anywhere, you know. Yeah, I really don't have any strange. I just have one incredible adventure after another, you know.
Well, I think that's great. I mean, you were definitely selling Cuba for sure, man.
I need to go back. Like, there's a part of me that just feels like I need to tell the story however I can, whatever little bit I can contribute. They're just such a wonderful people, you know.
Dude, thank you for doing this. Thank you for talking about Cuba. Thank you for making me want to spend my money and go to Cuba. Take pictures. Because I will definitely be doing that, I think, as soon as I can. So
yeah, I'll send you the link to the little movie that Luke made. I'll send you the link to Cuba Workshops. You can see all the information. And just the hard part right now is just when.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not just flying there. It's the ground travel. You're all in a car together.
Yeah.
Right? So it's things like that I think are going to. I was very optimistic. I thought we'd be going back in June, but.
Well, everybody just needs to go get vaccinated.
Yeah.
And get this thing under control.
I'm dying.
Forward. All right, everybody watching, thumbs up it, like it, subscribe, comment, whatever. Keep it going. Thanks, guys.